Call to order tonight's Board of Education meeting, Dixon Unit School District 170, Thursday, August 7th, 2025, for our special meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Fritz.
Here.
Mrs. Gates. Mrs. LeBlanc Parks.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Here.
Mr. Wadsworth. Mrs. Wagner.
Here. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no one signed up on so we begin with personnel report. Use the personnel page and then ask for a motion to approve in second. New hires, Marcia Comer, paraprofessional at Reagan Middle School, effective August 11, 2025, as are all of this section. Kendall Fassler, paraprofessional at Washington. Carrie Goldie, paraprofessional at Washington. Tricia Henson, permanent substitute teacher for the district. Caitlin Irvin, social worker at Dempsey Day School. Stephanie Nelson, Title I teacher at Jefferson. Elizabeth Spalding, special ed teacher at Jefferson. Courtney Zachariewski, paraprofessional at Washington School. Change of status, Brito from a part-time custodian to full-time custodian at Dixon High School, effective August 7th, 2025. Lonnie Chaddick from interventionist at Jefferson to district itinerant dyslexia reading specialist, effective August 11, 2025. Lindsay Mitchell from dean of students to assistant principal at Madison School, effective for the 25-26 school year. Amy Scott from district itinerant dyslexia reading specialist to third grade Title I teacher, effective August 11, 2025. Resignations. Trinity Harshman, library professional at Washington, effective July 23rd, 2025. Christine Olson, paraprofessional at Dempsey Day School, effective July 22nd, 2025. Leslie Robinson, paraprofessional at Washington School, effective July 31, 2025. Sarah Schmidt, first grade teacher at Washington School, effective July 7th, 2025. Ginger Schaefer, paraprofessional at Washington, effective June 25th, 2025. 24-25 athletics, activities, resignations. Brittany Pitzer, girls varsity soccer coach, effective immediately. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fritz.
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Aye.
Mrs. LeBlanc Parks.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Mrs. Wagner.
I'd like to have Carmen come on. We appreciate that she's given in from waiting.
Yes.
And at our retreat, we had a few questions about the next steps and things like that. So you could give us an update and absolutely, and we'll do a little Q&A or something.
At your tables, I put the announcement brochure. And I'll give Erin this copy and I'm sending Erin the link, not a link, but an attachment that would have the finished and final brochure that you can certainly post on your website or other ways that you can promote your position. I went into our Revelous system, which we are transitioning to a new application system. We're moving from Track or Frontline, which is what we used to use, and we're using a new system called Revelous, which about 17 other states in consortium use. So the position will be pushed out to 17 states, as well as the 39 that are part of the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searches. Currently, there are about 30, a little over 30 candidates who are in the pool beginning their applications. Now, these 30 candidates are for potentially for other postings that we have in Illinois. They have not finished because there's a couple of steps shifting to a new application system that they're not used to. In the AppleTrack system, you have to build your profile, and then after that, you can apply. Well, a lot of people who have their profiles in AppleTrack now have to rebuild it in the new system. So that's taking a little while. But I did have a conversation with an individual that I did kind of a little interview with, who was very interested in Dixon. I thought might be a very good candidate to take a look at. I'm looking for his information and his submission of his application into AppleTrack. We did talk a little bit about the residency. He kind of questioned that a little bit, but in talking through it and indicating to him that the board would give the candidate up to a year to relocate, then he thought, well, maybe it could work. I just point that out because that may be a reason why there may not be as robust numbers of candidates coming through. I had another candidate who was interested in a different district and flat out asked me, is there a residency requirement? And I said, well, this particular district, no. And then I saw her name popping up in terms of the application process. So I want to be very transparent and open with you with regard to that. Now, the postings are, it's posted until the 19th, the 12th of September. The 12th of September, so we've got about a month. And we know there's a lot of people in the system getting their applications in. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that and keep you updated on it. Now, if we get to September 12th and I'm not seeing the numbers I'd like to see, I would want to extend it a little bit more to do some more communication, pushing out and things of that nature. But once the applications are closed, and it will be sometime in September, if not the 12th, then if I would need about a week or so to, we screen the candidates. We do an initial screen, and we do that initial screening virtually. So I would have gone through all of the applications and I would have vetted out those applicants that don't meet your criteria. They don't have their certification because sometimes they apply and they don't have the licensure. They're not clear on the residency, all of those things. So we would screen all of that and we would have usually about a dozen or so candidates that we would screen virtually. And I would do it alongside a colleague that I work with. And we would ask questions and that would further give us more information about the candidate to bring you a slate of candidates. Generally, it's about 6 because it's about what you can handle in an evening or a day or something like that. Otherwise, you're going to be expending a lot of time. And it's part of the reason why we selected the association to do this. So I would come to you in October, and I've done it different ways. It has to be in closed session because we are talking about individual candidates and we can't discuss that in open session. So we can have a special board meeting or we can tie it to the regular board meeting during closed session. Generally, it takes 40-45 minutes to go through all of the candidates and address your questions. So we would have to see which way you would like to go in that regard. Then we would help you set up the interviews. You need another date to interview the candidates. And we would set up the interviews for you. Give us the time, you would set up the 1 hour time slots. And you would interview the candidates. That usually is 2 nights because most board members might work during the day, so 3 one night, 3 another night. If you have the 6 candidates. I would assist you with questions with the evening that I would come out to present the slate of candidates to you, I would also go over the entire process, the interview process. I have questions that I have separated by some of the themes from the focus groups. And so those questions I would share with you along with some other questions. Generally, we select a bank of about 15 to 20 questions would generally fill up an hour. And you would choose those questions. And then we talk about the process. You need somebody to welcome the candidate. What happens if two candidates, we tell the candidates not to come any more than 15 minutes before their, interview time. Where should that individual sit? Do you have a place where that person can sit? Where are you gonna have your interviews? Will it be in this space? Confidentiality during the interview is something that is very important. So we have to assure that. So we would have the candidates come in, you would interview the candidates. We generally don't recommend that you discuss each candidate after their interview. You take notes on their questions, on their responses, on your what you have seen in the cabinet, in the candidate, and then after the interviews, then you would deliberate. And you would select, well, these 3, or these 2, or these 4, whatever that number may be. I would really want to know more about them, get to know them a little bit more. That would be your second round interviews. So we don't tell the candidates that we're not selected, you're not selected just yet, because you just never know where things go. So we would have the second round of interviews. That's another meeting, another evening. There, usually you can take care of the 2, 3, 4 candidates that you're going to interview. Do your questions and deliberate. And through that process, there would be generally 2 candidates that rise to the top. In the agreement we have, you have selected to have stakeholder input to your finalists. So then we would set a date. It's looking like it might be very late October, early November. We would select a date. We'd talk about which groups you would want to have them listen to the candidates. And so normally we've had an administrative group with your size of the district, a staff teachers group, a community parent group. Sometimes it is done on the night of your regular board meeting or you have a special meeting, because then you could potentially interview those 2 candidates. I would come in with feedback to let you know what the groups were saying, what their feedback is. We do not allow the stakeholder groups to rank or to say who they want, because that's not their role. We make it very clear that their role is to provide you with feedback on the candidates so that you can make a decision. And then you select the candidate of choice. Usually the board president would do the phone calls and let the person know we want to offer you the position. And then let the other candidates know, thank you, but we appreciate your time and we can help you with the wording on that. And then that candidate of choice will work with the IASA attorney. And your attorney will work between the attorneys to negotiate and talk about the contract, the salary, the benefits, those kinds of things. And once that's finalized, during usually your November meeting, if I'm looking at the timeline, during your November meeting, you could conceivably make a motion to hire the next superintendent of the district. So it could happen November, or it could happen, you have a board meeting in December. or it could happen in December. It just depends on where the dates fall with the interviews, with the stakeholder group, and those kinds of things. So I like to try to build off of already scheduled meetings that you have, so you're not meeting more than necessary. The next meeting would be the October meeting, would be the presentation of the slate of candidates to the board. So when is your October board meeting? I didn't want to put dead, absolute dates on the brochure because things can change.
October 15th.
Yeah, if we close the position, if we have enough candidates and we close the posting on the 12th, that's plenty of time, even if we close the posting late September, early October. There's plenty of time there for me to do the screening and to prepare the slate of candidates for you. When I come in to sit down and go over the candidates with you, you will receive the full application, their resume, their reference letters, their credentials, all of their information as a candidate that you would have to review, to jot down questions, things of that nature.
At the October 15th.
At the October
when you present
15th.
The slate.
If you so choose to want to do the discussion about the slate of candidate, otherwise you'd have to have another meeting.
Can you speak to the residency aspect of it? Is it your feeling that are people not wanting to live in the district, or it's just the timing of the idea that they are not wanting to, they don't have the ability to move within right away?
It's tied to a few factors. One, let's say you have a candidate who has a family.
Mhm.
And that family has children who are in critical transition grades.
Sure.
If you have middle schoolers, high schoolers, moving them at that point in time in their life could be a real challenge. So that's one consideration. The other consideration that is still an uncertainty is the market. The ability to sell the home if they live a distance away, and the ability to find a home in the district that would meet their needs. Okay, so those are the two probably biggest reasons for the question from a candidate about residency. And those two reasons will probably be the ones that would have a negative impact on the number of candidates that would apply to the district. I did speak to someone who said, well, when we talked about residency, I live 20 minutes away. 20 minutes away is not necessarily in the Dixon district boundaries. And the question was, well, would the district allow that? And I said, well, you know what? Put your application in, select Dixon as a district you want to be considered with. We will take a look at it. So do you want to lose a potential great candidate for 20 minutes living outside of the district? I mean, those are the things that have to be considered. But it is posted, and Linda, thank you, you gave me the words that the board wanted to use. And when I came out back in March, I believe, we talked a little bit about residency. And so it is a better fit if you were to say residency preferred or something like that. But it specifically says it's required and the move within 1 year.
And there's nothing to say that we couldn't open it up further as we get along in this process.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
if we are not finding suitable. And that's why I told you, it's not just Dixon city limits.
Right.
Our district, I mean, I live 15 minutes away and I'm in the district.
Right.
So our district encompasses several big neighborhoods, developments around them.
Sure, well, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. And if I see that the number of candidates is a low number, we can extend it, or I can come back, Linda, and speak with you about maybe adjusting that language that might generate more benefits. But it would be up to the board to then think about, okay, so if a candidate is an hour away, is that acceptable? 45 minutes, a half hour, you know, those kinds of
I don't think
considerations.
it was so much the minutes as it was,
The involvement,
the loyalty to the town.
Absolutely.
The loyalty to the community.
Yeah.
But,
But an hour of ways.
that is tough, I can tell you. I
Mhm.
lived that one for a few years.
For instance, the gentleman you were talking about earlier, that was, how far away would he be? approximately?
He indicated he was about 20 minutes. But I don't know, because his full application isn't in yet, exactly where he's located.
What's everybody else think about it? It's like 20 minutes away.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think, but I think that's our biggest thing was we had a principal before that was an hour away years ago, and again, that's one person, but I think the loyalty is the key word is, I'm not saying, I think 20 minutes is that, I think that's the conversation point, half an hour, but I think what town they're living in, I mean, as a taxpayer, I mean, I'll use just if they lived in Byron, I'll just pick out a town. They lived in Byron, and they didn't want to move here, you know, and are they loyal to Dixon? Or are they, you know, there's a fine line, I think the community lens is gonna be put on, like, wait a minute, if we hired someone, we hired someone from Byron, and they still live in Byron, and they have no intention of moving. People, I think community like, why'd you hire this person? I mean, they're gonna leave, you know, you start that snowball effect, I think it's perception, I think it's a lot, but again, 20 minutes. I think it's worth conversation.
Especially where the 20 minutes ends up.
Yeah, is it in Amboy, is it in
Franklin Grove.
Franklin
You can
Grove?
still be pretty
Rochelle.
well here.
I mean, there's,
Rochelle would be more than 20 minutes.
and that's kind of what I was thinking. It is more than the drive. I think initially we were thinking, we don't want to be a stepping stone community. We don't want this to be a job as a lead up to moving into the suburbs. You know, so we don't want somebody driving from the suburbs just to get some experience and then they're gone. But then also, I mean, I taught in Rochelle. But I was loyal to that town. You know, I was loyal to Dixon. And I think that it makes a difference how much extracurricular activities you're at. How much you're seen in the community and so on.
Yeah,
If
part of
you're
that is
loyal
also.
to another town.
Part of that is also handled through the expectations that you set upon your next superintendent. Let's just play out a scenario. They're 25 minutes away, but they happen to be the candidate that you really like. But because of their family situation, maybe they have a special needs child or something, they're not able to move. The conversations and the negotiation conversations about what is expected of that individual in terms of community involvement and things of that nature can be delineated and identified and made clear. Right, so that if they know the board expects X, Y, and Z, then that's something that they would have to fulfill.
I mean, we did have a superintendent from Rochelle at one point, and the expectation was, yeah, you should move here. But it wasn't a clear-cut expectation before, and you never did. So, I guess, yeah, I thought we could kind of set it up now and see what happens.
Well, let's see what happens. Again, there's a little over 30 people in the pipeline right now, getting everything ready. We should start to see, people are kind of busy with getting school open and all those things. We should start to see in the next couple of weeks, the applications coming through. And then at that point, I will let you know, so what is it looking like? and if I'll extend it a couple of weeks. And we'll take it from there.
You mentioned applicant size,
Right.
so you're, if 30 apply for Dixon. You're gonna weed out the 18,
All 30, I don't wanna mislead you.
okay,
All 30 are in the pipeline for the Illinois Association of School Board. But we have several superintendent,
correct, but I mean,
Searching.
that,
Right.
come October.
Right.
Let's say we have, I use 25.
all right,
25 apply for our district for this position. And you weed out through the, interviews that you would do, between you and, board. Those 13, per se, would be weeded out based on, certain criteria, right? Obviously, like the licensure and, all that stuff, that makes sense, but when there's subjective, again, that's why we hired you, and I get that, but if there's 10 applicants that would be qualified possibly, at what, besides that county stuff, what things are you looking at as the stakeholder studies that we've done?
we asked
Okay.
some
Stuff that
specific
we
questions.
give you,
Right, we asked some specific questions that are related to your top characteristics of what you want to see in a superintendent.
Okay.
Okay.
A biggie for many candidates, if we don't see an indication of strong financial background, we would dig deeper into that. And so we would use your stakeholder groups, but more importantly, the board's, criteria for what they're looking for in the next superintendent, and that would help us further weed out the candidates. Now, if you want us to bring you, let's say there is a pool of 15, 20 that are just for Dixon. If you want us to bring you more than 6, we can certainly do that. But I want to be clear, that would necessitate more time from the board
So
to
maybe-
interview.
maybe the other question would be is, out of those 14 that were weeded out, will we have transparency to see, okay, these 14 went through the interview process, we felt these 14 were not, Joe, Bob, and Susie. They did not fit the criteria, we had transparency to see, like, yep, okay, we can review it our end, and like, if we have a question, like, oh, you know what, you saw something in the interview process, but gosh, this person, can we bring them into the 7th or the 6th, add them into the pool, based on, as a group, not just one person, but as a group, we think Joe is a great person, he got beat out. Why, we ask why, give us the answer, and maybe like, oh, that makes sense. But if we don't get that clarity and like, I think we really feel close to this person,
Okay, so,
based on various factors, that, I mean, again, we hired you for that,
right,
but, do we have that access to see that, the
the full pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say there's 20-25 candidates that were specific to Dixon. We would not disclose or give you the information on all 25 candidates.
Okay.
Because many times with the candidates, they are nervous with their candidacy getting out there.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't get chosen, they still gotta go back to work in the communities that they're working in. So we don't disclose that information until you get to the finalist piece. For that very reason.
If we decide we don't like the finalists though in the end, can we go back to that?
Absolutely,
They're
yes.
not dismissed in
No.
any way.
No.
Okay.
And they're not given a thanks but no thanks letter.
Yeah, not that.
Until the final candidate is selected and you have the contract and all of that. And then you inform that the selection has been made.
What size of applicant pool are you looking for? Is it like to extend the date, September 12th was kind of a date to start the process, right? Is it 15, is it 10, is it 20, what number are you looking at, say, all right, we're good, or, is 6, if only 6 apply, is that point to say, what magic number do you feel?
Well, if only 6 apply, I would like to extend it,
Okay,
right? If I can get 10, a dozen and more,
okay,
then I think we're okay.
okay,
That has been a common number in areas of the state and districts that have similar profile to Dixon. Okay,
So the dates in October, besides our regular scheduled board meeting, it's too early really to set those, don't you think? I mean, I thought maybe we just should be flexible enough that as a board, we know there's gonna be a couple of evenings, 2, maybe 3 evenings at least during October that we're gonna all have to be here.
when we do the initial screenings, the virtual screenings with the candidates, we generally let them know if they are selected to be on the slate. They always ask us as well, when will the first interviews be taking place? And so after the 15th, the first round of interviews usually occur within the next week or so. Right, because then you whittle that down and then you have second round interviews. And with the second round interviews, depending upon how many candidates, we may also have the stakeholder groups interview when you interview at the same time. So the way that would look is that candidate A would be with the parents and candidate B would be with you. Then candidate B would go with this group. So we would organize it so that it could be potentially accomplished the same night. And I may bring another colleague with me to be able to help with that.
So do you think we need to set dates now? I mean,
I think if you are able to do the first round interview dates, second round interviews, they generally happen very quickly after the first round. Because after your first round interviews, that very last evening that you interview, right after that last person, you deliberate.
How would we be able to set the dates so if you might extend it? Shouldn't we wait?
Even if I extend it, I feel pretty good that we can still have a slate ready for you by your October 15th meeting.
Okay,
So the dates that we would be trying to set is after October 15th.
okay.
So maybe like the third week of October, you're thinking?
Like the 22nd.
for the first round.
Yeah, because I would need, yeah, for the first round, right? Because that would give you some time, you'll get a binder with all the applicants' information, right? The slate of candidates. That would give you time to go over the resumes and the application. There are, the questions that they have to address are on here. To kind of get a feel for that candidate. And then, you would have the questions. And you would, come together right before the meeting and decide, well, I'm gonna ask this question, I'm gonna ask this one, you would divvy up the questions. You have to ask the same exact questions to every single candidate, okay?
Do you think we are missing out on potential candidates because of our residency requirement at this point? And how, as a board, do we have the ability to change that? Is that something we have to vote on? Is that something we by email, you know what I'm saying? How do we change that? What are our
You didn't vote on what's included in here, okay? This was a conversation and working through Nancy and Nancy working with you. So I don't think that you would need to vote on making an adjustment. We would communicate that out through our avenues of communication. And we would go back and look at the candidates and
Right.
contact them that have put in, that are in the system and say, hey, Dixon has made a change. If you're interested, the residency requirement, there.
And you would have the ability to do that.
Yep.
When was the stakeholders interview during the first round? It was that
Second round.
second.
The stakeholder interviews is in the last phase, and they would only interview your finalists. Normally, generally, not that it has to be this way, there are 2 finalists. And so that's when, we would pick a date, from this time to this time, one candidate would be with parents, another candidate would be with teachers, and then they'd switch. And then another group would come in and one candidate would be with administrators, the other one would be with the board, and then they would switch. And so then you could have the stakeholder interviews as well as your final interview on the same day. That's possible. We've done it that way.
So how does a stakeholder, if it varies, I mean, obviously you have parents to administration to so on and so forth, faculty. Are they given a list of questions like we are, ask questions based on the, all the stuff we've done before? Are they given that, okay, Susie, the teacher is given question one and so on and so forth? Is it structured that way or is it, well, it's gotta be structured? Okay.
It is structured.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise,
It's
it
chaos.
would not be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I come in with a specific set of questions. And again, the questions are aligned to the qualifications, to what characteristics have risen to the top. More information that we want from the candidates. I usually have them on a sheet of paper with enough space so that people can take notes if they so want it. It's a similar process with what I did with the focus groups. I begin by letting everybody know how much you value their input and their feedback. And that their role is specifically that. We will not be ranking, we will not be telling the board, this is the top candidate, this is none of that. So I would ask the questions and we would have dialogue and I would take notes, right? If there was something else that they wanted to share, that they didn't feel comfortable or they thought about it after the question was asked, they can write it out on their sheet. Those sheets are collected at the end of the stakeholder interview, right? So that's one way of doing it. You have a little bit more control with that. I am in the room, or the other colleague with the other candidate, we are in the room. We never leave the candidate alone with the stakeholder group. So we are there, we are taking notes, we collect the sheets. We can also put down like a rubric where they can give us some more information. We tally that information and capture that information hopefully before the next group comes in. So by the end of the stakeholder interviews, we would come to you in closed session and we would debrief with you what the stakeholders indicated to us. And you can have the sheets of, or the notes and things of that nature to look at. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. I think that giving them something that they can reflect on and write on is very helpful, as well as a dialogue amongst them by answering questions out loud. Generally has worked very well.
Should we use the same people that were in the focus groups? Or how big do
If
you?
you can, but you really as a board want to show that you have really engaged your community and
Okay.
select the same people that may give a weird vibe. So if at all possible, I would select different people for the stakeholder. There could be some of the same, but not
Yeah,
all
but
of the
at
same.
least open it up again, so what you're saying.
Right,
What size are you looking at for the group?
usually 15 to 20, no more than 20. Because then it just becomes
Mhm.
too big, and it's generally about an hour.
And we'll be here for those times, the first interview and the second.
The second, if we do the stakeholders the same night as your second round interview, absolutely. But if you decide you're going to do your finalists, you want to meet with them, individually, of course, then I wouldn't necessarily do.
Well, I think maybe we should tentatively set a date for this first.
First round,
Yeah, it was hard enough to get people here tonight. And with the schedules and, we want everybody everybody here. I could see with the second round that.
That's a real key one.
That
You
comes
could
very
set
quickly,
both of them.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is-
Again, it could be a few days to maybe a week right after the first rounds.
Let's just set them, and if we need to move them, we can move them, but at least they're on the
I
calendar.
think so too, because the stakeholder one will have to, so we'll have to start organizing and getting that out, so. I mean, not now, but
So if your October 15th is your board meeting and in closed session, I would present the slate of candidates. So when would you like to have your first round interviews?
it's a week after, so.
I would say Wednesdays.
The 22nd?
Yeah.
And you would go. You would almost have to do the 22nd and the 23rd. Because playing out if we have 6,
Yeah.
it's 2 nights.
that's why I think it's important to get these dates at least tentatively set.
Could you say, is it worthwhile to have Aaron send out a little poll, 22nd, 23rd, or 29th, 30th, and see if that. I mean, for me, that's right, but
I'm good. 22nd, 23rd.
yeah, me too.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Well, I would not be here for the first round. I'll clarify. We would set it up for you, you would have your questions, I would have gone through the process with you, but for the first round, I'm not necessarily here. But you do need somebody to welcome the candidate, have a holding area, those kinds of things. If you decide to do the stakeholder interviews, the second round interviews, your second round interviews, and the stakeholders at the same time, I would be here with a comment.
Don't you think we should try to do that?
We've done it, it works, and
Yeah.
it's time efficient.
Well, then we do have to look at your calendar for that.
And if you wanted to do the following week for the second round, October 29th, I'm fine. Wednesdays, it sounds like Wednesdays are better meeting nights for you all.
It's just very. You kind of think about coming here.
So second round, the 29th. And the earliest that it can start, 6 o'clock.
I would say yes, because dealing with stakeholders, they work till 5. I'm okay with 5, but I think.
Well, we could start the second round with stakeholders. We could start, if you want to do administrators and teachers right after school, and then that's an hour. And then the next hour, we can do another group. So we'll play with the time so that we might have some groups before 5, or would come in at 6. We'd start with the other. Okay.
Makes sense.
Are you guys still thinking 6 o'clock for the 22nd, 23rd?
You'd be going till 9:30.
Yeah.
And if you monitor your time,
Can anybody come in earlier? Raise your hand if you can come in earlier.
Well, what's earlier?
5, 4, 5.
5, I could probably see.
That's
1 hour earlier, we get to go to bed.
9 versus 10.
Cause you said those last about an hour, Carmen.
yeah, they're about an hour. And then, you want to give a couple of breathing minutes in between for you all. To go to the restroom and things of that nature, before you bring on the next candidate. So if you start at 5. You'd be getting out 8:30-ish.
In theory.
Yeah, again, someone has to be the time taskmaster and keep it moving along, and we'll talk about these things.
So
So-
are we
Almost
gonna do
tips.
that the 22nd and the 23rd at 5?
let's play with the 23rd. What's the time that teachers would be out?
Well, isn't that?
You mean the 29th?
I'm sorry, the
29th.
29th, yes, sorry.
2:45, so
I mean, I would say
you get done at 3:15.
4 would be the
4.
earliest.
Yeah, or 4 o'clock, is
So
what we
or
could
we
do.
could do the,
I guess
if we do the administrators and then the teachers, 4 o'clock, 4 to 5. And then we do community and the board, 5 to 6. 6. Yeah, we have to, because they have to crisscross, so it's almost 4 hours. To include the stakeholders,
And
but
we
if we
would
start at 4, that may be doable.
We need to be here for them.
No, no, we'd start the staff and the administrators
I see.
before the board,
Okay,
and then the board comes in at 5. So you would do a 5 to 6 and a 6 to 7, you'd be done. I'd come in, debrief in closed session. And then, you would deliberate.
Aaron, you're writing all this down, you'll send it to us. I think I got it right.
We'll play with those times.
Sure.
Make sure. Type,
Okay, 22nd, 23rd, 29th, 30th, all at 5 o'clock.
just.
just the
Just
29th.
the 29th.
Yes.
Oh, that's right, the
No.
30th.
Or do it whenever.
The
Sure,
30th
sure.
would only come into play if you have 3 or 4 finalists for second round interviews.
We'll start.
I'm still blocking.
Good, I think that we needed to hear that, and we all interview all board members
Yes,
and divide the questions up.
absolutely.
That was something.
So, I know you mentioned you won't be here for the first round, will you have those questions prepared?
Yes,
Okay,
when I give you the slate of candidates,
Okay.
and I can send them to you
That would be.
prior. Okay, and we can talk about it during closed session on the 15th. And you'll get, like I said, you'll get a binder, in the binder will be all the questions, will be the process of the interview, the do's and don'ts of the interview, and all these things.
So I had checked we had discussed that in the tree, whether we.
a mock,
Practice
the
interview,
mock interview.
and we did.
You didn't, but that doesn't mean you can't add it now. I mean, the 2 things you paid for were the
We didn't have
initial
that.
focus groups and then the stakeholder.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with, if you're giving us questions and time to just talk about it.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
And you, like, just reminding us that we need a greeter and we need a space for the waiting candidates. We'll have those rules kind of written down.
Yeah.
So you develop those questions, not us.
I will give you a bank of questions. When it's all said and done, you need about 15 to 20 questions, depending upon the candidate and how lengthy they are in responding to questions. You might get to all 20, or you might just get through 15. It just really depends. And so which questions you put initially first are going to be important, because you want to make sure you want to get to certain things, right? So you will get a bank of questions, and collectively you'll decide, these are the questions we want.
When do we do that?
I can send the questions to you a couple of weeks before. And then you can solidify that at the closed session that I'll be with you.
On October 15th.
I can help guide you through them.
If, I'm not saying it would be, but I was gonna say some big questions, if one of us, has, I want to ask this question.
That's a better question.
I mean.
Oh, sure.
Okay, I was gonna pass it to you for sure,
Absolutely.
Obviously,
Why?
well, how many kids do you have? I mean,
No.
Yeah.
You can't ask them if they're
No.
married,
Yeah.
it's adults, but absolutely, if there are some specific questions that you come up with and you say, look, I want to ask them a question of, have you ever experienced the time of, when was the most anxious, difficult administrative decision that you've ever had to make? I'm just making stuff.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Right, and we all look at it, I don't see any concerns or issues with it, we can put that in the bank of questions, absolutely.
So that we'll talk about that October 15th. Yeah.
Unless you do a special meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
wait,
that's their option too.
Yeah,
is-
that's. it's
What's
about
October's regular
45
schedule?
minutes.
as far as,
So maybe
As
that's
far as
what-
the meeting,
Oh.
we have a lot going on in
I have
October.
no idea yet.
You
I gotta make it to August first.
would have approved the budget,
SIP plans are done.
Yeah.
SIP plans are done.
It,
I remember when I was superintendent, what October was like.
October might be initial, test scores coming out of the state, what our initial
Until
rank.
the end of the month, they're embargoed.
Oh, that's right, to the end of
So
October.
November is the assessment presentation usually, unless you have local assessments that you present out on.
Might have audit presentation. If it's, depending on how much or if it's done. I think
Aaron.
Well.
No, Margot.
Mark, you need to talk to Mark.
Yeah.
Not Aaron.
No, that's, just has a few things.
We have so many other things. People are, that, prefer to keep it on the 15th, but we just
I will say October last year was not too bad from an agenda. So.
So I will send you a bank of questions by the 1st of October. That'll give you 2 weeks. So when I come in to go over the slate, you can finalize them amongst yourselves. You can be saying, I really like question so and so and so and so. So that we're more efficient with our time on too.
but we can't do it.
No. If you want, you could send me, Carmen, I like these questions. And I can put it together. That's not a problem.
Carmen, can I just clarify for the 29th? So are teachers and admins, is that one group together as stakeholders? Okay. So can you go over the times again? Because I think what I wrote down, it's not
Okay.
jiving with
So
how.
let's say we start at 4.
Okay.
right? So, and we have 2 finalists.
Mhm.
All right. Finalist A will be with the teachers from 4 to 5.
Okay.
Finalist B will be with the administrators from 4 to 5.
Okay.
Then at 5 o'clock, they switch.
Okay.
Finalist B will be with the teachers and finalist A will be with the administrators.
Okay.
Then at 5 o'clock, the board comes in. And maybe we do the community.
Wouldn't that be at 6 though? That'd be at 6 then, right?
4 to 5,
5 to 6, and
Yeah.
then, okay, all right, that's where I was
We're
off.
not
Yeah.
coming until 6.
So you're not coming until 6.
6.
Unless you start earlier.
Teachers can't get here earlier.
Right. Okay, so we can do it that way. And again, I'll think through, there's different ways that we've done it. Knowing that you're able to start at 5, so that you're not here for a long period of time.
But the 29th, we're dealing with 2 people and discussing.
Well,
Generally,
Theory.
In
2
theory,
people,
theory.
right?
Theory.
If it's 3 people, then I gotta rethink the
Yeah.
whole, and you might be here the 29th and the 30th. If you wanna do the stakeholders at the same time. Or we do the stakeholders a different night and then just have the board do the 29th with the 2 finalists.
But then finalists would have to come to you.
Exactly.
Oh,
Well, that's why we're trying to be more efficient with everyone's time. Yeah, so 4 to 5, 5 to 6, board, 6 to 7, and 7 to 8. Because they're interviewing 2. So the board would be done interviewing at 8. I would come in and give you the results of the stakeholder interviews. You would deliberate. And hopefully you will have your candidate of choice by the end of the evening.
Can I ask, do the candidates at all tour the district or any of the buildings or, anything like that prior to that, or is it
Yeah,
just
there's
the interview
different
process?
things that could be done. One, there have been boards that have wanted to do a site visit. And again, this could come right before the final interview or right after the final interview. It could be with the 2 finalists or with the candidate of choice before a final decision is made. the board may want to send a couple of board members to visit the district, to talk to people, his current or her superintendent, visit with people that they supervise, that they work with. I went through that when I became district superintendent. I had 5 board members go visit me at the district where I was. And they had to be very careful not to travel together, you know, the open meetings act and all of that. So site visits are something that, they boards sometimes do. The other thing is your second round doesn't necessarily have to be the typical, here are another set of questions we want you to respond to. Your second round could be, candidates, we want you to do a presentation on this particular topic. Research Dixon and present to us how you would handle this particular situation. And they would do a presentation and you could ask them questions. So those are some different kinds of things that could be done in a second round final interview.
But we can decide that.
Yeah.
After the.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna depend on the candidates. There may be 2 that really rise to the top that you really feel good about. They've really done a great job answering the questions and they're very strong. You may want to dig deeper because I'm not sure, you know, so you may want to give them something that they would present to you and that you can evaluate and ask follow-up questions about.
We'll get too much in the weeds here, but how superintendent I'm just gonna pick fire, because that's a fourth, some buyer, for example. And in 2 members, or a member, I guess a member, but 2 members. And I've heard them before, and they go to the community and say, hey, what about Joe Smith, you know, what do you think, Ryan, or her, you know, about like that, might be an old school thing. You know, asking the community, again, you want to be confidential, that's where it's a fine line between,
Right.
you know, does if he or she's in an admin position, they don't get selected,
By the time they reach, if they reach finalists,
yeah,
then it's out.
okay.
It
I was
generally
gonna say,
gets
how
out.
do you do site visits?
Yeah,
or
that's what I
do
guess.
Community
Yeah.
involvement visits, and there's no way to contain that.
We've never really had that take shape in terms of board members going out to the community. Board members have done social media searches, Google searches. If they know of people in the communities where they work, they may contact them, those kinds of things. We would do diligence. We do strongly encourage the district to do a full background check, not just the police check and things of that nature. And we recommend something like a people trail where there is a cost to it, but they do a very thorough background check. We can't do it because we're not the employer.
That was my last question. I reread the contract and it says a limited background check.
Right,
is what
so-
we do.
I mean, having worked at the state, I know a lot of superintendents and I can pick up the phone and say, hey, what can you tell me about so and so? That's not a problem, but in terms of actually, we're discouraged by our legal counsel of doing Google searches and social media searches and things of that nature, because that's somewhat crossing the line of what the employer should be doing.
So when does that happen? Before the first interview with the,
Generally, when you have your 2 finalists,
there,
you can begin that, but definitely with your candidate of choice, even before you offer the position to that person. That's most of the time, that's when that very thorough background evaluation check is done. Because like I said, there is a cost to that level of background check, and you don't want to do that on all your candidates.
and you'll tell us, you'll give us information.
Right.
Who is best to do that?
If you don't have an entity currently in your district that you would use for something like that.
You mentioned compensation, the one part about, you know, the lawyers get together and get the contract. At what what you made it sound was the lawyers, when they get their numbers in check or.
The lawyers, for example, your attorney will be in direct contact, I would assume, Linda, with you as board president. You all have given a range, right? And I would assume that it would be okay where that range falls. It's the range that you have set. So there's conversations with the board president. Linda may reach out to some of you. And you communicate to the attorney. You give the attorney the parameters. And then they negotiate on behalf of the district. And then the IASA, his name is Chad, he would work with the candidate and make sure that the contract was in place. Did you do that? You have that, yeah, most of our superintendents, that's how it's done.
Yep.
And it's done fairly quickly. You could be ready to, at your November board meeting, to have the motion to hire your next superintendent.
And when you mentioned 5 candidates came, you mean they saw you at your previous
When I
workplace?
was interviewing and I was the finalist.
Okay.
At Berwyn North is where I was district superintendent, my first superintendency. 5 board members visited where I was working at the time and sat with my administrative team, with my superintendent, with administrators. And they saw the office, they went to my office. One board member sat at my desk and did some of his work. So, yeah, it was an interesting experience.
But that's not usually done.
That's
or
not
is-
typical, not with 5. 2
I
is
know.
what it should be.
I know this district at one point went and visited the hometown
Yeah,
of a previous superintendent and asked around and talked to relatives, friends, anybody they could find in that town. But
yeah, I would be careful with that.
he
because
ended
you
up
just don't,
stealing from the district and almost.
oh
going
my
to jail. So
gosh.
That
just-
just,
yeah.
I'm not real fond of that idea. But it didn't work that time.
Yeah.
People tell you, they want to get rid of them,
Let's see what we get and who we get, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, if you have a thorough background check, those kinds of things generally come up. But it's never a 100% guarantee, just like it's never a 100% guarantee that the individual will reside in Dixon and will be here. Life happens and they may have to do something else and it necessitate, a resignation or something like that. You never intend to have the candidate do something unlawful. You just never, you don't have that 100% guarantee. But you try to do due diligence as much as possible to make the best decision.
When are you retiring, Doug?
When am I retiring?
Doug,
Done.
2 years after this one.
okay.
Oh, that we have to.
Just
do
in
this.
case we didn't interim or something. Just in case.
No, think positive.
No,
You're
it's
gonna
all
find
work.
the best candidate and they're gonna have transition time to work with your current
Yeah,
superintendent.
that's what we were.
And it's gonna be a great experience and they're gonna love it here and you're gonna love that person. And it'll be a long, strong, successful relationship. Just
And that was one thing,
positive.
to touch, I mean, not to be negative, touch on what you said, though, that was one thing that, I guess, going down that thought process, if it goes south. I think we have, was it a year?
Here,
A
within
year.
that year, if for
they-
whatever reason
Whatever,
they leave or you decide adios, we will redo the search for you at no cost.
Oh, that's right.
the insurance policy, I call it
Yes.
insurance policy. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is that within the first 6 months, your new superintendent and the board will, is offered a kind of starting off on the right track workshop with the Illinois Association of School Boards at no
That's right.
cost. And I went through that when I was superintendent, first time. It's very beneficial. It's team building, you're a team, you set out your expectations. He or she sets out theirs, you come up with agreements.
And that is
and it's
part of it.
just, yes,
As we're talking about in the board retreat, is how do we have the board retreat conversations with a new superintendent? And that's what we're gonna have, in theory, that's what we're gonna have.
Your board retreats are normally in July.
Yeah.
Every other year,
Every other
every 2 years.
So that would almost be a board retreat type thing.
I think the thing that you talked about at this retreat last month was in the spring, because by that time the new superintendent will be offered a position. That person would sit down with the board, and if we use IASB or someone to set the next district improvement goals.
Yeah.
And that would be a great thing for them to know then what they're gonna be working on, and
Just getting back to what you said about assistant super, we don't go through this kind of process
No.
for his.
No, because the board has only one employee.
Right.
And that's the
Okay.
superintendent.
Right.
After that, you delegate that
The
to your CEO.
superintendent recommends somebody.
Right.
All right. Are there other questions? I've got all my answers. I wish John was here, but we'll pass this information on to him. I think
For
we-
all this piece.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of questions that we had at the retreat.
So the next
Anything
step
else?
is posting closes. I do the screening and come on October 15th with a slate of candidates for you to interview. We've got the tentative first round dates. You'll have questions by October 1st. We'll finalize those. We'll get you ready for the interview. You'll have the interviews on 22nd and 23rd. Then narrow it down to the finalists. We'll have the stakeholder groups that same evening that you do the second round interviews. If we're gonna work with that. Then you deliberate, and hopefully a candidate of choice will rise to the top. We'll do background checks and things of that nature. You can probably offer them the position very shortly after your deliberation. But they need to understand that you have some steps to take. There is no obligation until that contract is signed and you approve the individual. So if you're doing that background check and something comes up, you can say, unfortunately, this came up in your background check and we don't think that it's going to be the best fit for our district. So as long as you've not approved them and there's no contract signed, you should be okay. And that's something your lawyer should clarify for you as well, district attorney.
Realistically, we look at it, the November meeting.
In
Unless
all
some
likelihood,
score comes up where we have to delay it.
yeah, which is very good.
Yeah,
It's very good.
we wanted that last semester.
And if, let's just do the ifs here. If for some reason, bring forward a slate of candidates and they're just not meeting you're not satisfied with them, we go back to the pool, we can repost again. And go through that second phase, that second round, which would be the January, February, March somewhat, second round of candidates, right? So that's always there. You don't need to start thinking about interim if you don't have a selected superintendent by springtime. Then I would suggest, let's start thinking interim. But again, possibility, has it happened? Yes.
You said you would.
Particularly
I did.
very-
He said.
I'm not gonna leave the district unlurched.
particularly in very isolated, very rural areas that has occurred. For
With
whatever
that.
reason,
What a second round, if we have to get to that point, can the applicants reapply? You know, let's say Joe and Bob for the last two, and I mean, obviously, we get into the process, we're not gonna change our mind. You know what, Joe, Bob, we like you now. I mean, but can the ones that were weeded out, maybe apply, or is those 15,
if you hadn't interviewed them,
they could?
yeah, I don't see why not. But if you didn't like them and you interviewed them and they didn't meet your,
Why would you change your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
why would they also, if they're given the indication,
Yeah.
we're gonna move, we're gonna reopen, that just says a lot to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes they do, but most likely they don't.
Another expectation I thought of that might be part of a question is we wanted flexibility that second semester. I mean, if we do hire somebody in November, that they would work with Margot second semester whenever they can, you know,
Yeah, so
and that they might have flexibility.
that would have to depend upon their current superintendent or their
Are they
current
willing
board,
to
because
do-
it could be a sitting superintendent, right?
Right, right.
So there would, if it's, let's say it's an assistant superintendent that is moving up. So then Margot would talk with the current superintendent or you, Linda, and just say, what are your thoughts? How can we, talk about some time that they could spend
Right.
here, those kinds of things. If it's a sitting superintendent and they have days left, vacation days, those kinds of things. Then I think those are the kinds of things you have to talk about. I had a lot of vacation time and I had a superintendent who was a mentor and someone who really wanted me to take that next step. So as long as I was fulfilling my obligations, I had a good 3 months of spending time in the district. And I had a really good handle. I met with every board member, I met with every principal, I met with teachers. So when I started July 1st, I didn't start July 1st and that was my first experience with the district. I had 3 good months of really learning the district.
Shouldn't
So
that be
it's gonna
addressed?
be unique to that individual's spot where they are and why they're leaving and, relationships and things like that.
Shouldn't that be addressed in the contract?
It could, but if you have that as an expectation, then I probably would guess there would be an expectation of some kind of compensation. I mean, there may
Well,
be
I
some,
think we should
issues
make
there.
it.
there may be
That's
some
why I think it
issues
should be in the
there,
contract.
because they are also working for another district. So that's a sticky area, because you're being paid from the current district. And then you can't pay them to then work certain days here. So it's a tough one.
But at least we could have that outlined in the contract,
Something. for
either
Tim
way,
to
so it
work
doesn't
on.
come up later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Again,
that's just for Tim to worry about.
Yeah, let's see.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. But I think we should make sure it's addressed.
That would be what your attorneys would work out.
Right, I
And
understand.
then conversations with the individual's current district, that's gonna be key.
And in our questioning, we find out whether they even had a willingness to do it. I mean, I would think it'd be in our best interest to.
Sure,
But it'd be nice to know that they thought it was in their best interest to do that too.
The other,
If they
per-
could.
Don't you think parents can determine how far away they are?
Yeah,
Or-
right,
Yeah.
sure.
the other perspective is your community will know, once you approve them, who the person is. And let's say they negotiate something in their contract and then they get paid here. That could set off some negativity in perception here. That look at, they're coming in and they're already getting money and they're already working in this other district. You know how that goes. So you wanna set up a situation that your new superintendent is gonna hit the ground running in as positive a way as possible and not have anything. And you can't control everything, but you don't wanna set up those situations that might have that impact.
Anything else? Then, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move. Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you, Carmen, for.
Absolutely, and if there's need for me to come out and just answer, more questions or email me.